Happy summer, Australia. I am back and I am talking to one of the most exciting pound for pound fighters from your country. And she is just an incredible person and an incredible martial artist. Here are some of her accolades. You could probably guess who it is. She is the IFMA World Muay Thai gold medalist, and she is the former WBC Muay Thai World Champion, and she joins me on my show today, Miss Chelsea Hackett. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here. Happy summer. Thanks for spending some of it with me.
Thank you so much, Tyler. So excited to chat with you.
Well, I have to tell you, when I think of you, I think of all of that cool Muay Thai stuff and all of your accomplishments that you've been able to uh, have on your resume to this point in your career and at such a young age. I know you probably hear that all the time, but that's really incredible. And when you think about your martial journey just up to this point in your life, what are some things that really stand out to you up to this point? And I know there's probably a lot of things that you could pick, but I'm curious what you would pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I have had such a long journey already in martial arts and I have done awesome things. And sometimes, I have to remember what I've done and what I have accomplished because, going through a massive transition from Muay Thai to MMA, it's really easy to just be literally battered down to like nothing every single training session because transitioning from one sport to another sport, it's people don't understand until they do it how hard it is. So, um, like you say, like I must hear it all the time, but it's a good reminder sometimes of no, like I have like achieved really cool things in my life, and uh, yeah, it just like motivates me to just shoot for the stars even more, especially with MMA.
That's what makes your journey so exciting. That's what makes you so exciting because I feel like the best is still yet to come. And, I think of you, I think of just tons of potential and what you'll be able to do by the time, like, say, you're 30 years old in this sport. I don't think, I think people are going to come back at this particular episode and I'm going to sound very, very smart 10 years from now. Hopefully, I have like,
Yes.
I don't know. Hopefully, I figured out a way to maybe grow some hair on my head between now and then, but I don't know about that. But Chelsea, I wanted to like you're picking up like you alluded to something that I think is so important. It's like you've accomplished all those things, all those accolades in Muay Thai, and then to go into mixed martial arts where you're having to like start from the very beginning, and
Yeah.
you're doing that as an adult already. People have been doing this now for a long time, and you're having to learn all this stuff in the fly. No amateur MMA bouts. You get thrown right into the shark tank right away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to get your advice because I feel like mixed martial arts, like it's starting to attract wrestlers. It's starting to attract K1 and Muay Thai people
Yeah.
such as yourself into this
Yeah.
sport. What is some of the biggest lessons that you learned as you've made this transition into being a mixed martial artist? Or what's some advice that you give other people that are looking to do the same?
Yeah, man, I do quite often get messages about people wanting to make that transition, whether it's from, not so much boxing, but definitely from just jiu-jitsu people or Muay Thai, definitely more Muay Thai. And if I just have to say, like, it is so difficult. Like, it is so difficult. And anyone that says it's easy is 100% lying because I absolutely was learning on the fly. And within 6 months of me starting jujitsu, I was already looking at my first MMA fight. And, you know, I don't say no to opportunities. I definitely don't say no to, I just do not say no. So anything that kind of comes my way, I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, 100%. Let's do that. So, I knew that I hadn't had pretty much any experience in jiu-jitsu, but here I am prepping for my first MMA fight.
Right.
And because I had already had 24 fights, the nerves, the adrenaline, all that I could handle. I was sweet with that. I've already done it before, but you don't realize until that first fight that shit, man, this is a totally different sport. Like even my striking, people are like, yeah, you've got great striking, and I'm like, yeah, but that needs to change as well. It's not Muay Thai striking does not work in MMA. And that's another thing that I've learned along the way. And, but going from having my first MMA fight with 6 to 8 months experience in jiu-jitsu to now I'm going into my sixth MMA fight, but I've now got 5 years of experience. Like it's so different. And people haven't seen me in 2 years. That was my last fight, but they will see, I've just been absolutely grinding and working in the gym to get to the point I'm at now, and obviously to get me further in my career. But I think if I had anything to say to people that wanted to do it is you have to be all in. Like you can't be half in, half out. Like this is gonna take up every part of you physically and mentally. And if you're not tough enough, if you can't accept, your weaknesses and dealing with them in the gym, then it's a tough journey, man. It's so tough. But yeah, I've never wavered from my goal. Like that's one thing I'm so proud of myself for is I've hit some adversity. I've hit road the last 2 years, but not once has it stopped me, demotivated me. Not once have I said to myself, should I just not do this? Like this is too hard, this is too difficult. It just never got to that point, and I just kept working, and that's all you've got to do. If you really want it, you'll work for it.
Your story reminds me so much. About a year or so ago, I had Arlene Blencowe on my show, who's an amazing person, by the way.
Yeah,
She's like
amazing.
she's
Love it.
amazing. I have a soft spot for Arlene, I really do. But hearing
Yeah,
her background and hearing how she went on this journey and how she ended up being where she is, like she talked a lot about some of the same things that you're referencing. Like she started MMA with really no MMA background. She was a boxer at first, and she was on the
yes,
boxing circuit throughout Australia, and then she made that transition into MMA. And your story seems to parallel with hers a little bit. Is
yeah.
she somebody that you've had the opportunity to speak with a little bit?
Yeah, look, Arlene and I chat on social media a bit, and I've got so much respect for her and everything she's done for especially Australian, female fighters. She's definitely paving the way, and the experience. And one of my opponents I fought on Eternal had fought Arlene as
Mm-hmm.
well. So it's awesome to see where she's going and how far she's taken, her career in this sport. And yeah, for someone, coming from boxing, I think is even more difficult
Yeah.
than what I've come from, because Muay Thai, you can kick, you can punch, you can clinch. There's a lot more to Muay Thai than there is to boxing. So, for her to make the transition from boxing to MMA and do it the way she's done it is just admirable.
She's an amazing person, one of my favorite people in MMA. I
Absolutely.
always when I'm asked who my favorite Aussie fighter is, I always say it's Arlene, because she's just
Yeah,
such an amazing person. I hope I have
I'm
Arlene.
actually going to I'll do some training with her in the next few weeks.
Well, you'll have to give her a high five or something like that for me. She's just an
I will.
amazing person. Chelsea, there's another key element about your story, and it's we hear about all your accolades, and you're cruising through Eternal, and you're doing so well. Things are going great. Obviously, the media is talking about you. People like me are talking about you.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, the weight of all of that is like, that's
Yeah.
a lot. And then we have, I don't have my phone with me anywhere. Well, no, that's a lie. I have it right here, and it bings and it dings all the time. And I'm trying to think, envisioning myself as you for a second, and it's like the mental side of like detaching and really trying to drown out the noise and focus on your martial journey and like your
Yeah.
own sense of like being good or bad
Identity.
and identity. Like I struggle to fully grasp that, and I don't think any of us really can unless we're like in your shoes. But I wanted to ask you, like, from that mental standpoint, like, what are some of the things that you do to just like reset, and like
Yeah.
what are the things that you do for your mental health? Because I think that's critically important. I know that's a tough
Absolutely.
question, and I promise that's probably
No,
the toughest question.
I'm actually so glad that you brought it up, because it is actually a major part of my what my life has been since, my last fight. So before Contender Series, like you said, I was winning on Eternal. I was constantly in fight camps, and it's like that saying, "What's not broke, it don't fix what's not broke," and that's literally what I was doing all through my Eternal fights. And I wasn't allowing the time in between fights to keep learning and improving. I was just focusing on literally doing a fight and getting straight back into a fight camp. So people don't realize, but you don't actually, when you're in a fight camp, you're focused on your opponent and the fight. Like, that is all you're focused on. You're there to like tick your sessions off the list. Of course, you're still getting better and learning, but not as much as what you would if you were only just training and you didn't have that fight. So, I was going along, and like you said, there was a lot of media and a lot of attention starting to kind of come around, and it was all happening so quickly for me. And then, when a Contender Series opportunity came up, I was like, of course I'm ready. I've been winning. I'm on a winning streak. Like, my confidence is through the roof. I've got people talking about me. Like, I'm ready for this opportunity. And the lead up to Contender, it got worse and worse. Like, obviously the media, the pressure that I was then putting on myself, and it became like hang on. It was like I was doing it for everyone else, because everyone's eyes were on me and I was doing it for everyone else. And that didn't actually hit me until after the fight, where, I've come home and I was like, wow, I really struggled getting through what I just went through with the amount of the pressure that was around me. And I was massive on social media. So before Contender, and all through those fights, I was constantly posting. My partner is a videographer and photographer, and he had epic content that I was always putting out. So I was trying to build my brand, with fighting as well, which is so important. And it was going really well, but it took its toll on me mentally. So constantly showing up for Instagram and other people just was an absolute detriment to my mental health. And so after Contender, I made a conscious effort to not put my life out there anymore as I was. And that's why a lot of people, I think now, they haven't known what I've been doing. They're like, oh, she's been in the dark, you don't see much on social media anymore. We don't know what she's doing, but I needed it to be that way. The last 2 years, that's all I've been focusing on, is what I'm doing and doing it for me, and just getting back to my roots and my purpose. And so my biggest thing was having to separate myself from social media and other people's expectations, because that was just getting out of hand.
I think that's critically important. And I hope that if you are, an up and coming martial artist and you're hearing what Chelsea just said, I hope you follow suit. I hope you do the same. It's a promotion business. We get that. I understand that there's media obligations, because I am media. I get it. Trust me. But also at the same time, it's like you need to do what you need to do to take care of yourself and to take care of your partner and the people that mean something to you outside of competition, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's of critical importance. I want to talk about that Contender Series fight, because I'm friends with several fighters. Not all of them have gone on the Contender Series and had that experience that everyone envisions, right? You envision, nobody goes on Contender envisioning it's not going to work out. You just don't. And if you are of that mindset, then it's like that it's not going to work out. It's like, well, then you might not be ready, right? So
absolutely,
you get that moment. Your experience on Contender parallels a friend of mine's. He went on Contender, it didn't work out for him, and he was absolutely devastated that he didn't get the result that he wanted. He won that fight. He lost by split decision. It was shitty, right?
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was shitty. For you, I look at your fight. This is a fight that I thought you were dominating. Everything was looking great, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't going so great. She was able to get full mount in the center of the cage, and then the fight, before you know it, it's over. All of the work that you put into it, that first round that I thought you had won, your speed, your striking, that did enough to me. I'm not a judge, but I looked at that and I was like, yeah, I'd give it to Hackett. That she
Yeah.
won that round convincingly. I know your
Yeah.
father's your coach. I know that he's in your corner. And I'm sure this is a moment, this is a fight where you probably talked about it with him a lot. And there were probably tears that
Yeah.
were shed over this. And there's
Yeah.
probably like, it was probably a difficult conversation to have with him. But tell me, like, when you're on that, like, 25-hour flight home and you're talking with your
Oh,
father about this fight, like, that had to have been an emotional moment for you. And
yeah.
for the first time in your competitive career, you probably started to question things. What were some of the things that you guys talked about?
I remember you put it so well. You go into an opportunity like that, and thinking you're going to lose just never comes into your head. You go in with absolute confidence. There's no way that this could go the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fighting for my life. Like, this is my life. And the moment that happened, and I just felt so empty. Like, it was the weirdest feeling. Like, I was just like, everything I've done led up to this point, and I could not perform. I could not get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is like the so yeah, he's like one of my coaches, but he also is very calm to be around. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like having dad around, in just before a fight, all that sort of scenarios, because he keeps it real chill and calm for me. He does never shows his nerves. And I remember after that fight, we went back to the hotel room, and I couldn't stop crying in
Yeah.
the car. I was constantly crying. And we sat up, I think, and we had like a solid, like, it would have been like a 2 hour talk, talking about what happened, just getting everything off our chest. And he remained, he was just the exact same. He was just calm, telling me, like, you're 22. Like, I was 22,
Right.
like, you showed up in a pandemic, the middle of a pandemic. We didn't even think we were going to get there with
Mm-hmm.
visa problems and all of that, let alone, so us getting there was our first win. So he was just reminding me about, hang on a sec, this could never have happened. And it kind of brought me back down to the ground, and like, this was a huge opportunity that I had. And yeah, it's friggin' sucks that I didn't perform how I wanted to, but I 100%, and like dad said, you're going to grow from this experience more than you can ever imagine, and you're going to come back so much stronger and better.
I believe that you taking that loss, and it's unfathomable to think about, but let's think about it in this context. I think you're going to look back on this one day and you're going to be like, that loss was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. Because think
Yeah.
about the flip side. You beat her, now you're in.
Yeah.
And now who's your first fight against? And
Yes.
you're at that
Exactly.
stage of your MMA career where it's right.
Exactly.
So it's like,
So this is the other thing that we were all talking about, was like, hang on a second, this really isn't that bad.
mhm,
You you thought you're ready. You're obviously not ready, because I came out of that fight and I was like, of course I went into that fight
right,
thinking I was ready.
right.
But that fight made me realize I'm nowhere near ready. I have so much work that I need to do.
Mhm,
And like my dad reminded me, imagine if you won, you were on the UFC roster, and you needed to do what you're doing now in the UFC.
right.
So what happened to me in hindsight, and in for my future, is
Mhm,
definitely a positive, because the last thing I would want is for that to hit me 4 fights in, and then you get dropped because
right,
you're not ready,
right.
right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I when I think back to that fight now, I just already think like I'm a completely different fighter. I'm a completely different person, and it needed to happen.
And 2 years of the training room without the distractions
Yeah,
of preparing for fights and the
yeah,
drama and the media circus that can ensue, that probably did a
yeah.
lot, not only for you from a technique perspective and like working on the things that you knew you needed to work on, but just it was probably a healthy mental reset too.
Huge. It was blocking out the noise.
Yeah.
That's literally what the last 2 years has been for me. And there's no hype train. You're not trying to keep up with other people's expectations and pressures. So yeah, you put it perfectly. The last 2 years for me was no noise and just work.
Talk to me about this opportunity that you have. PFL Challenger Series is coming up. You're going to be featured. You're going to be the featured bout of the evening. It'll be happening, I believe, in Orlando at the end of February. So hey, you aren't going to be freezing in New York. That's nice. That's a plus, right? But talk to me about that. That's a huge opportunity. And after a year or two of being on the sidelines, yes, I'm sure it was nice, right? We reset. We work on our jujitsu, our wrestling, or whatever it was, all the secret stuff that you're working on that I won't ask you
Yeah.
about. But then, after the phone's quiet for a little bit, I'm sure you start to get that itch after a while. Like, okay, like
Oh man.
I'm
I've,
ready.
I've, yeah, I've had the itch for like 16 months. Like the itch has been there. And that's the thing though. Like, yeah, the last 2 years has been me just working silently, but I have had so many fights happen, not happen, opponents in, opponents out, injured, 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 just constant adversity, especially the last sort of 12 to 14 months. And it's been freaking draining, but it's like, nah, it's all right. There's a bigger purpose for me, and this is gonna happen. It will happen. Everything happens for a reason. So when my manager told me that PFL were adding the women's flyweight division to Challenger Series, I was like, man, yeah. Like he was like, would you be keen? I'm like, are you kidding? Like I've just been chomping at the bit to fight. So it was a no-brainer for me. And we worked so hard to get me fights here in Australia, just to get my cage experience up again and get that confidence back. We worked so hard, but nothing was coming off. The pool of females in Australia is already so small. So, I was getting opponents and then they were pulling out or saying they never said yes. And it's just so bad. Everyone wants to protect their record here. So it was getting literally impossible. So when this opportunity came up, it was like, this is obviously my calling now, and this is the opportunity that I'm gonna take.
And what's also really interesting is when you think about PFL, a lot of opportunities there, and
Huge.
I really like the format of how
Me
that
too.
whole promotion
Yeah.
runs because it's all merit
Yes.
based, right? That's got to be
Yes.
nice.
So that's the biggest thing that really sold me on PFL was I was watching them closely, like for the last year, right? And especially like Kayla Harrison in particular, and looking what she's done in the PFL. And I was like, hang on, this is perfect for fighters. This is, you fight every 3 months. You're constantly active. It's a tournament. You're fighting. If you keep winning, you get to that prize. $1 million championship. There's such a big goal there from the beginning of the season, and I that format just sold me. So I well, it was about a year ago. I said to my manager, like, they need to bring more female divisions in because there was only lightweight women.
Right.
So I was keen bloody this time last year, but they didn't have the division. And then, yeah, as soon as I heard that they're bringing it in, I was like, yeah, here we go. We're ready.
Well,
Let's go.
the other really cool part about it is there are two people that are champions that had to go in the UFC. So Wilkinson, obviously being one of them, he's the champion,
Yeah,
and Aban
Brandon.
Mercier is the other one.
Yeah,
He's the
I think
welterweight.
Brandon did as well. Brandon
Yeah,
did as well.
yep,
Yeah,
and Logain too. Yes. So you're
yeah,
talking about all these guys that
yeah,
had a stint in the UFC and now they're like in the PFL and they're
yeah,
having overwhelming success. And then the beauty of it is not getting wrapped up into maybe some of the, we'll just say, less than savory parts of fighting that not all fighters enjoy. We'll just call it that.
yeah,
We'll leave it at that.
absolutely.
Before I
Yeah,
let you go, I wanted to ask you, Chelsea, I'd be remiss to not talk about it. Your opponent is Desiree Yanez.
yeah,
Looks like a tough girl, a lot of experience. She had a stint in
yeah,
Bellator. Looks like she
yeah.
got like a slick knockout in her last outing. Do you know much about her? What are your thoughts on your opponent?
Yeah, I was waiting for obviously my opponent to come through. And as soon as I got her, I hadn't heard of her before, as she probably hasn't heard of me. But yeah, I've looked back at a few of her fights, and she's looks like a tough girl. And I'm really excited about this matchup because I just feel like a reason why it's the main event of the night, and I think we're both going to really bring some fireworks. And she looks like a tough chick, and I'm just so ready to fight. Then I will just be raring to go. So I'm really happy with the matchup, and I think we're both going to just bring it. Obviously, I'm looking for that early stoppage, but I think if it goes to 3 rounds, it'll just be epic.
What does Chelsea need to do to get the win? Like the good Chelsea, like the Chelsea I want to see. What does she have to do in order to get that win?
The Chelsea just needs to do what she does best. Just go out there, dominate the cage, stick in the center, push the pressure, and just Chelsea needs to go back to her old roots a little bit, and just fucking come out with a win. Whatever way it happens, whatever way it happens.
And if you're open to suggestions, I have one suggestion for you: be to just have fun, right? Because this is what you do. This is this is what you were like born to do, and it's like enjoy your time, enjoy your time out there.
Absolutely.
I think that's I try not to sound like a dad by saying that, but at the same time, I think it's so important because it's just like
it really is, because that's a lot of, when you have that loud sort of media around you as well, that's where you get lost in it a little bit, and then you forget to have fun because you're like, whoa, everyone's watching me, everyone's looking at me. But I definitely, in the lead up to this fight, I just feel happy, I feel content, I feel comfortable, and I really feel like there's not a weight on my shoulder this time. Like it's a different feeling. So I know that I'm going to go in there and definitely have fun with this one.
Well, Chelsea, I can't wait to see it before I let you go so you can enjoy the rest of your lovely summer weekend.
Yeah.
Were there any folks or companies or anything like that you'd like to talk about before I let you go?
I have an epic dietitian and food people that make my food for me, the fight dietitian, and TikTok nutrition. They are absolute legends, and they get me in tip-top shape, make the cut easy. So I'm very grateful to have them on board my camps. And I am doing my camp at Freestyle MMA this time. I came down here last year actually, and just absolutely loved the training. So being under Joe Lopez and obviously being in a room with Alex Volkanovski, especially in the lead up for his next fight, is just, and Jamie Malarkey, and the crew and the energy in the gym at the moment is just awesome. So very grateful to have them as a part of my team going into this fight, and I just can't wait to get the win, bring it home.
We can't wait to see it. All of the information to watch Chelsea's fight is going to be in the description of this video. Make sure that you check it out. And Chelsea, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Legend. Appreciate it.